All right, we're here today to talk about SEO and AEO alignment. What are those things? What do they actually mean? And how do we use them to get found by the right people online and in AI? The A, by the way, stands for answer engine optimization, which in this case, we're talking about AI. So welcome to the session here. I'm going to jump right in. I'm Ashley. If you haven't met me before, I'm the owner of Frame Reach Studio. I've worked with home design businesses for over 6 years now and in marketing for over a decade. Kind of crazy, but we're here. We are loving working with everybody in the home design industry, I should say, and we're part of all these wonderful organizations that you see down at the bottom. I have Whitney here with me today, who is our operations manager. Whitney, say hello.
Hey everybody, glad you're here.
If you know Whitney, you love her as much as we do. She keeps everybody in alignment. That is our word here. And she is wonderful at doing so. So let's jump in. What are we actually here to learn today? We're talking about the difference between SEO and AEO, why they both actually matter, because they do, and they're only both becoming more important. SEO has been around forever. AEO is a new term. You may have also heard of GEO, which is generative instead of answer. There's all sorts of terms flying around, right? But at the end of the day, they're all important, right? So how do you make sure you're taking advantage of those? What are they actually looking for when they are recommending you, right? So how do you know what to put on your website, what to put in your content online, all the things to make sure that you actually come up? We have a 5 zone, we just call them zones, in our webinars framework to audit this. So you can go, oh, I'm missing zone 3. Let me start with that, right? There's some factors that we're going to talk about saying, hey, you might be more findable because of this thing or that thing. If you're missing this thing or that thing, let's make sure that gets done, right? How local and national search differs and which one applies to you. Some it's a little bit of a gray area depending on your services if you work virtually, and some it's very clear cut. You've got a 30-mile radius, whatever it may be, and that's what you're doing. But it's good to understand the difference and the difficulty between the two, and then how to make sure that all of your online presence and even offline too, but online presence aligns so that SEO and AEO, excuse me, say, hey, let's make sure to show this business for this person who is searching. Okay. Okay. So what here sounds familiar? Your website's beautiful, but you're not actually showing up for anything. You have a Google profile or you don't, but you've never touched it. That's super important. You Googled yourself and can't even find you. You went to ChatGPT or whatever your AI platform of choice is, and you found everyone except for you, right? What's sounding familiar here? So let's actually dig in a little bit deeper at the difference between these two. SEO is search engine optimization. That's your Google, that's your Bing, that's your DuckDuckGo, whatever it is that you're using or any of your ideal clients are using to find you. Obviously, Google is still the top one up there, but that is a search engine. Okay, so how do we optimize for those search engines? AEO, as I said, is answer engine optimization. What is the difference here, right? So search engines are going to crawl your website, and by profiles, it can crawl through, let's say you have like a profile over on House or an NKBA profile. Wherever your name is showing up, we're just saying that's a profile outside of your website. Okay, even your Google business profile. Is everything matching, right? Meaning, is your name the same on all of them? Is your address or your location, if you have a home address, just at least your services area, is your phone number the same? Do all of these things match? That's called NAP if you've heard that before. It is name, um, address, phone. I'm like, what was A? So like I know this. And so if they don't match, that's a negative trust signal, I will say, to Google and all the like, and that makes them not want to rank you. So imagine if you have things online that goes as far as like your services not matching or not even being clear, they're definitely not going to rank you,
Mhm.
right? So all of that is super important. Overall, and that's when somebody's searching for like kitchen remodeler in whatever city you are, right? It's very kind of like straightforward when somebody's going and searching in a search engine. When somebody's going to an answering engine, something like ChatGPT, Claude, or even using like Gemini inside of Google and answer engine optimization or answer engine for you, you want to optimize the answer for their question because they're having a conversation, right? So they want even more clear information from you, right? They're going to want to see those actual questions so they can go, ah, somebody asked the same exact question. Here's the answer that they provided. Let me pull it over here and give it to them in, again, their answer engine of choice. So we're taking what we've already been doing in search engine optimization for years and years and years, and we're pushing it even further. So yes, is this a new thing? Sure, but it's really taking what we're seeing over here on the left and just pushing it even further. So if you haven't been doing what we see over on the left, now's the time, right? Jump in, get yourself into AEO as well. With being more specific, we're going to talk through tons today, but I want you to first understand what the actual difference is between these two things because it's not these crazy different things that a lot of people come to us and go, oh my God, there's this crazy new thing I'm trying to do. Say, oh, we've got all this. What do we need to do now next to get here? And it's a smaller step instead of this giant leap. Okay.
And I think too, just to remind, like kind of what Ashley and I were talking and going into this is just like this is not meant to be like daunting
Mhm.
because like if you're doing your homework with like your brand strategy and all of that stuff and know all of those details already that you're applying to SEO, like Ashley mentioned, it's just applying it a step further. You're not having to like recreate the wheel. It's just making sure you're also applying it in a different way. So don't like let it get like inside your head that this is like a whole nother world of work that's being created for you because you should already be doing those things to make sure that you're doing the right things on your website and your profiles and that sort of thing to where it would apply then over to the AEO side.
Exactly right. Love that. Thank you, Whitney. And so we're looking here and saying, okay, so how has search changed with these things? You go type in the keywords, like I said, kitchen remodeler in whatever city. People scroll, they click a link, but now AI is going, this is the one, or here's a couple options, and you're not scrolling forever. Or you're even getting an AI overview in your search, which it seems to me, at least when I'm searching these days, that it's on pretty much everything. There was a while where it was kind of spotty if it came up or not. But it's right in front of you there. It's first, right? It's giving you, hey, here's these things, and a lot of people are just digging straight into those, okay? And then also, like I said, it's now more conversational than ever before. Does this mean that people are only going and using conversation platforms, answer engines? No, right? So you still need to be doing SEO just as much as you need to focus on the conversational aspect. Yes, it is one more thing to do to be found, right? But you don't want to be left behind. Again, way back in the day, you could make a website and say, here I am online, and you showed up. And then everyone else showed up, right? And so SEO became a thing. And now it's becoming people are wanting answers quicker. They're wanting to be kind of more human, even though it's not, right? By having a conversation. And here's kind of where we are. So what do we need to do to make sure that you still stay competitive? Okay, so they are looking, by they, I mean your ideal clients. They're looking based on their location, their need, or trust factors such as like looking for reviews. So you need language across all of these areas to show up because everybody's searching for all of these things. It really honestly depends on the person and obviously where they're located, their need, and kind of where they are in their journey, right? So if somebody is searching like how to find the right interior designer, there maybe they've done some research already and thinking like, oh, I do actually need help here, right? Versus like, how do I remodel my own kitchen? They went, whoa, 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 I need somebody. I'm going to go here now. I know my need. And then they're looking around and saying, okay, how do I now see um, who I can trust? So they're going to go ahead and look for reviews, right? Now, what is AI looking for? It's looking for specificity. It's looking for published expertise. It's looking for that consistent information, social proof, and a distinct point of view. Has this technically been there all along? Yep, it sure has, right? But now it's even more important, okay? So when we're talking about specificity, we're saying on your website, on your profiles, on your wherever, again, right? We want to say that your business specializes in what? Whole home renovations for growing families in city, right? Versus I do everything. AI is going to go, I don't know what they do. What does that even mean? So you
Mhm.
need to be specific, right? And you need to build that trust. What does that mean? Put your own blog posts out there, articles. If you can get published on other platforms, even better, right? Like a lot of our clients get published in online publications saying, here's your local designer, they're fabulous, blah, blah, blah. Or they're doing an article on bathroom trends and they get featured. You can then show that on your website. And again, that builds trust in these platforms where people are searching, but also the person that ultimately sees it, right? And they go, oh, wow, look at that. They've been featured here, there, everywhere. That makes me feel good about potentially contacting them, right? Again, consistent information. I'm going to say that again and again. It's got to be consistent everywhere from the get-go, but do make sure too that as your business changes, if you open a showroom, right, make sure that new address is everywhere, right? If your phone number changes, make sure that's everywhere. That can negatively affect you if you're not getting it updated.
Or
Okay.
even like tiny little things like, a lot of our clients will go through like logo updates, but then they won't update their
Mm-hmm.
logo on their LinkedIn. And then you're like,
Great
wait,
point.
is this the same business? Because the logo is different. Even though, I'm sure the website's correct on the LinkedIn profile, but if they're seeing a logo that looks completely different than your website or anything else that they're seeing, then that's going to throw them off and they're going to be like, wait, I'm not sure I want to reach out because I don't know who I'm even reaching out to. So make sure those tiny things do matter. And even if they, seem small, like, get an intern to help you do it. Get, like if it doesn't seem of like a value of you to you, it's one thing, but like it does matter when a client's sitting down and kind of doing their homework, like Ashley's talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that social proof too, the reviews, make sure you're asking for them, right? And also publishing them areas, get them on your website if you don't have a widget that automatically brings them in, get them added to there, share them on your social media, put them in front of people, right? It's really important. Make sure that they are being published on a platform that is one of the big ones, right? A Google, a House, one of those so that they can easily be pulled in AI. That does happen, right? And to a distinct point of view. Yes, you can, I'm sure if you're a kitchen designer, you can talk about it all day long, but what makes you special, right? AI wants to see that. And also, so do the people who are actually looking into you as well. Okay. Remember here, the businesses getting recommended by AI are not the biggest ones, they're the clearest. Clarity, 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 consistency. Okay. So if you're going, oh my God, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, we want to say, hey, here's the reasons that you might be visible, and then we're going to talk about some solutions. Okay. So if your positioning is vague or missing completely, that might be an issue. Your website might just be about pretty stuff and not search intent, meaning it doesn't have any content on it. We've run into that a lot, Whitney, right? Where
Hmm.
you run to a website, sure, it's beautiful, but just pictures.
Hmm.
They're beautiful pictures. But just remember, Google can see that there is a picture. It could see the file name. It can see what's called an alt tag. It cannot actually see the picture itself, right?
Hmm.
You can tell it that it's beautiful, but that doesn't mean much beyond the keywords, right? If you don't have any content that answers questions that people are actually asking, right? We talk about this a lot when it comes to doing things like blog posts. You may have, oh my gosh, this blog post idea would be great. We may go look and say, hey, there's not anybody actually searching for this, so let's try this topic instead. Right? There's that inconsistent business information. Again, I'm going to bring that up over and over. And a brand that never clearly states specialty, client, or location. So if somebody is coming to your website and they go, where are they and can they actually help me? You're missing, right? You're missing something on your website. So here's the quick assessment that we're going to go through. There are 5 zones, like I mentioned earlier. We talk about clarity, your Google Business Profile. This is a free tool. It should be used all the time and immediately. If you're not already, I'll tell you where to go if you are not. Your content footprint, your online consistency, there's our favorite word again, and positioning specificity. So where are you lacking here and where can you start to make a real impact? Okay. So again, if somebody's coming to your website and they can't answer these questions, start here, zone one. That's the most important thing. Okay. We've looked at so many websites, right, Whitney, where it's like we land there, can't even find the city they're in. And so that's an immediate click the X, find someone else, or click the back button, find someone else.
Or you can tell where they are, but like Ashley's mentioned a couple times, you can't tell like what they do. Like there may be beautiful pictures, but it's like is it telling you that they move walls, or they,
Mm,
only focus on kitchens and baths, or like, so like making sure like those, service, like we call them on the back end buckets, are like very clearly outlined so that someone doesn't come to your site and say, well, I don't know if they would do my project because I don't know what types of projects they do. Because
right.
you've only, like she said, only have images. Because images don't tell the story. You've got to tell your clients what part of that process. Because we do have clients even too that like they don't necessarily want to do all of the finishings, but then they'll
Mm,
have images on their site that have like the finishings included because you want pretty pictures. But like it might not be something they do, and someone comes to you and they're confused when you're like, well, I don't do like all the, finishings and art and all that sort of stuff. So.
Exactly, exactly. It would be like, imagine if you like were talking to an ideal client in person and all you did was hold up pictures. They would be like, this is weird, right? I'm gonna go somewhere else.
Right.
Have to have that conversation. Okay, zone two. Like I said, Google Business Profile is a free tool. I have that screenshot of ours over on the right side just so you can visualize if you're not sure what Google Business Profile is. It's what's called technically a knowledge panel that shows up on the right side when you're Googling a business name. It is the same thing that comes up in Google Maps. So a lot of times we hear people go, well, how do I get in the maps versus over here? Same exact profile. When you show up in the maps area, it's when somebody is Googling something in your local area. It doesn't always mean that they have a city or region name in their search. It could just mean that they say kitchen designer near me, right? And
Hmm.
that can bring up the map area, right? Again, same thing as this here. If they're doing a business name, so kitchen designer, whatever, this area on the right will come up if they bring up your or search your actual business name. So what you want to make sure of is your business profile claimed? If it exists, if it doesn't, skip down to step two at the bottom. Is it verified? Huge, huge thing there. We've run into a lot of designers who are like, yeah, I have a profile, but it's not actually showing up. Well, there's a verification issue. That can be a plethora of things, right?
Hmm.
If you need help, reach out to us on that because sometimes it comes down to knowing certain ways to communicate to get things verified. But verification is super important because yes, you may have a profile, but if it is not verified, it's not going to even show up and it doesn't matter, right?
Well, and some of our clients don't even know it's as basic as like you don't have to have a storefront as a
Right.
designer or a showroom, but like you have to have the right documentation and the right things that you send to them to show them like if you are working out of your home that you're a legitimate business. And like if you can't figure that out, like Ashley said, like we can help you with that, but also just knowing going into that might be part of the process if you do, function out of your home with your business because so many designers do nowadays. But just kind of knowing those things before you go into it.
Yep, yep. And as you can see, I work out of my home, right? And so I don't have an address on here. Now, if you do have a showroom or a studio, whatever you want to call it, and you do have an address, absolutely put that on there. That will help you. But again, if it's a home business, it's kind of just is one of those it is what it is kind of things. And you don't want to miss out on the other potential great things with reviews and being able to optimize the profile and so on. So, now, let's say you've got your profile, it's verified. Is it actually filled out? And this is important not just from the get-go of setting it up, literally go through every option they give you. It'll lead you through steps, right? But there are additional opportunities for keyword optimizations that you can do in here in order to be found. But also, they update it, right? So there might be a new option to add a new setting. I know it was a year or two ago, all of a sudden we could link our Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn profiles that weren't there before. So make sure that you're checking back. As well, things like the categories. So if you're a kitchen remodeler, that is one of the categories. We've
Hmm.
seen sometimes that get changed by Google. It is unintentional, right? It is just they're kind of robots going through things, but you got to keep an eye on it, right? And make sure that your categories are the same. You want to keep updating photos, right?
Hmm.
Keep that active. You want to add posts. There are posts just like there are posts on Instagram and Facebook. That's one that we see a lot of clients miss out on because they didn't know it existed, right? So make sure you're posting. And like we said earlier, make sure you're asking for reviews. Keep those reviews active and respond to them. Respond to every single one. Okay. If you're not sure if you have one or not, just Google your business name. If you see this come up, you've got one. And if you don't, you can make one. You can go to business.google.com, follow the prompts. Okay. Zone three, your content footprint. These are all the things outside of just the blurbs on your website. Are you blogging? Do you have lead magnets, videos, project stories, social, email, podcasts, webinars? There's about 100 more things that could go on this slide, but these are kind of the biggies. Do you have them on your own site? Do you have them externally, like I said, on other publications? Do they exist? And if they don't, start. Start now. Start small. You can start with a blog. You can start with emails and social media, right? These are the things that are going to build lots of trust in the platforms, like I said, SEO and the answer engines, but also within your ideal clients as well. Again, because they're going to say, oh gosh, look at this awesome blog that I saw. It was in an email they sent me, and now I feel super comfortable reaching out to me because in that blog they explained how their process works, where before I wasn't totally sure if they would be the right fit for me, whatever it may be, right? So really make sure that your content footprint, there is a footprint, first of all, and that it's wide, right? We want big feet in this case. Okay, consistency. Here it is again. Here's that word. Zone four, be consistent. Make sure that when you come up in Google and Bing and ChatGPT and Claude and wherever, that it's the same thing everywhere, right? And we want that on purpose. We want your business name to be the same. So make sure that if you are using your business name somewhere and it's the full legal thing, like with an LLC, it should be that everywhere,
Hmm.
right? If it's not, and it doesn't need to be, by the way, then don't put that everywhere. It needs to be an exact match. Okay. Fill out all your services everywhere. If you carry products, put all that everywhere, your contact details. All of this needs to be the same. So remember, it's not just a branding problem. This is a visibility problem
Hmm.
if you're struggling with zone four. Positioning specificity. We talked a lot about positioning a few webinars back. I'm going to touch on it a little bit here and talk about the importance of actually being specific because you can say we design homes. Okay, what does that actually mean? Where do you do it? And who do you work with best, right? So, are you luxury kitchen designer in San Francisco, whatever it may be? Like, oh, that gives me a much clearer picture of what you do, and it's not much more words, right? If any. Okay. So make sure that you are specific because if you're not going to be recommended by anyone because nobody knows what you're actually trying to show up for. So where do we start? How do we actually make traction with all of this? Here's a quick checklist. Go through your website, make sure it's showing your specialty, your client, your ideal client, and your location. Look at your Google Business profile, make sure it's claimed, complete, and active. Make sure your bios on social media are consistent with your website positioning. The last thing we want is somebody to go click on your Instagram bio, they land on your website and they go, "Whoa, that does that doesn't match." Right? And vice versa too. If they're on your website and they go to your Instagram and there's nothing or you haven't posted since last August, right? That's that not good gut feeling that we don't want. Okay. Are you in industry directories? Okay. Do those descriptions match? Again, I mean like in KBA, IDS, if you're in NARI, those kinds of things. And any press publication mentions that link back to your site if you've got articles in any of those, if you've got like a Better Homes thing, an AD, any of those types of publications that you can link back to. Okay. Make sure you are everywhere. So what does that actually look like? So you may have a headline on your website that says creating beautiful spaces for discerning clients. Instead, we can say whole home interior design for growing families in San Francisco, whatever, right? Again, that gives you that much clearer picture. You have a claimed but empty Google profile versus an active one with reviews, right? And you're responding. Your content on your website before may be a portfolio only, where now you've got educational articles that are ranking, right? And showing up in AI. Your online presence has different descriptions everywhere. Now we have consistency. So now we get that consistency across everything and people finding you as a result of all those things in that after column, if they're the right fit for you, right?
And just like one small example, we have a
Mhm.
client that has a blog that was posted like 3 years ago, and she is still getting found because of that blog. So that's why those little things matter, is because the more traction you get with one of those things, like the more it's going to start showing up for other people to then click on it and then find your website and then contact you. And so just keep in mind that, like, the consistency matters, keep doing it, but also like the ones that you do from the beginning really matter. So making sure that, like, from the beginning, what you're saying, one, is relevant, it's what you do, but also that it's including those like keywords and headlines like she's talking about, so that it drives people back even 3 years later, to where
Mhm.
that is really worth your time. I'm not saying everything you do is going to bring people in for 3 years after you do it, but that's a really good example of why it matters, because it could.
Right, right. Totally, totally. So, as I mentioned earlier, you need to establish if you're going to be local or national. It's usually a pretty easy answer. It's only kind of a gray area if you are trying to be virtual or eventually want to be virtual. Know that it is much easier to rank locally. Now, take that with a grain of salt because if you are in a big city, it's still going to be hard, right? If you're in a San Francisco, a Dallas, a New York, a Chicago, places like that, it's going to be more difficult. It's still going to be way more difficult to try to go national. So, what do you need for local? You still need that Google Business Profile. You need location specific language, like we've been talking about, that consistent information. There's our keyword. You need the client reviews. You need the content that references your area, right? And what does that mean? You can talk about it in your blog posts. You can mention where you are. You can have things called local landing pages for different areas within your region to help you get found. Now, just because I say it's easier to rank there locally doesn't mean it is easy, but it is faster to do than it is nationally, right? Because you're trying to rank for a huge area. In the US, we're speaking of specifically here, and you're trying to kind of gain so many more eyes than you are locally. And what do you need in order to do that, right? You need a huge, consistent publishing history, meaning those publications, those national publications versus potentially local publications that you get over on the left side, industry press, podcasts,
Mhm.
really detailed portfolio, perspective of point of view as a recognizable authority. So it's much like a bigger thing over on the right side. That's only if that makes sense for you to do. Most of the clients that we work with, it's not the case because they may be just working in their local region area that's like 30 to 50-mile radius, depending on their area, right? So you're not looking for that national thing. But I do want you to think about the difference in the difficulty between the two if national is an eventual goal for you. Okay, so your website is a search tool, meaning it's going to show up in, hopefully, in SEO and AEO. So is it actually working like one? How do we make sure that it actually shows up? All these wonderful things we've been talking about, how does it happen, right? So we've got areas that we can optimize. I'm going to bring up a few here that you can do. There are a lot more, right? But I'm bringing up the ones that are kind of the most important or at least attainable for you now. So, title tags. Title tags are what you see. And this is just a little snippet of one of our clients out of Google. It's that blue text, right? You can put in text that shows up there. Now, remember, Google sometimes changes this, and it has been doing it more recently. And it's for a good reason. It's because it says, hey, this title tag is going to help you get found more based on what's on your page versus what you put in. That's okay, right? But know that that's what is in the blue text there and what you should be optimizing with keywords. So for SEO, it helps you rank for specific searches and it signals relevance for a location. So in this case, for Will here, you can see SF Bay Area, interior architecture, and so on, right? For AEO, it tells them what question the page can answer. So is that always, like in this case, it's a homepage? Not always. It could be going to his blog posts, right? That's more of a question-based blog post. So the title tag would be the title of the blog post in that case, or even a local landing page. And that can tell AEO, hey, this page is going to answer the question for this person here that they're trying to get an answer to. Show this one, right? So that's title tags. The next one is the meta description. That's the gray text underneath, okay? And this again too can be optimized. Now, what's interesting about the meta description is it doesn't actually affect SEO rankings in Google, okay? But people can see it and they can read it. So
Mhm.
almost as much as like this is kind of like the subject line of an email, this is your second chance kind of thing to grab their eyes. Okay. So just because it's not necessarily affecting your ranking in Google doesn't mean it's not important. Okay. But in AEO, it is important, right? It is helping you. So we want to make sure that in there, again, we are potentially answering questions that people may have about that given page. Make sure it's relevant, right? Because if it's not relevant and you're putting stuff in there just to try to get found for certain things, it's going to see that and not recommend you. So make sure that it is relevant to what is actually on the page. Okay. So again, a couple examples over on the right side. Think of it as a citation preview. It's often the sequence AI uses to say, hey, this is what this page is about because this is what they're telling us, right? That's our meta description. Now your headings. These are, you've got the big heading at the top and then subheads throughout your page. This is the same for whether it's your home page, your about page, a blog post, right? Headings should be on every single page. Now, there's a structure to these headings. The biggest one on the page, or at least the most important one, I should say, is what's called an H1, heading one. And that should be your most important keyword on the page. It's saying, hey, Google, Bing, ChatGPT, whatever, this is the overarching topic of this page. Okay. And so what we have run into when looking at websites and going into and auditing them is seeing that a page may have multiple H1s. Can a page have multiple H1s? Yes, it can. It's not always the end of the world, but it's not always the ideal scenario. Okay. Because if we're saying the H1 is the most important thing on the page and there's five, what's the most important thing on the page, right? And there gets to be some confusion there. So what do we do then? We go down to an H2, which is a heading 2. It goes to 6. We don't usually go to 6 because that seems like a lot of headlines for a page, right? But you can have multiple H2s and multiple H3s, right? Depending on how your content is structured. So if you've got an interior design services and city H1, you can have, again, here you see kitchen design as an H2, your whole home renovation as an H2, like a bathroom design page as an H2. You may have H3s under that if it makes sense as kind of a subhead. Think of it that way. So this gives not only your reader structure as they're reading through the page, but it gives these platform structure to crawl your page too. So it's very important to make sure that your H whatevers are categorized accordingly and that too that they actually exist. Okay. Image alt tags, file names, and sizing. This sounds like a mouthful, and it technically really is. Each image on your website needs information. I mentioned earlier that Google can see that there is a picture, right? And if you have a file name that says 4872 JPEG, it says, okay, there's a picture. I don't know what to do with it, right? But if you give that file name an actual name with keywords, location, and you give it what's called an alt tag, which is in the settings of every single web builder, it comes into the code. We can put keywords in there as well. Google and AEO can go, they've got living room design in San Francisco on this page. There's an image on it, there's content on it, and there's this, that, and the other on there too. So they must be an expert in this, that, and the other, right? So we're going to show them. But they look at another site and say, we see 14 images with jumbled file names and missing alt tags. I'm not going to rank them. I have no idea what's on that page. I can't trust that if I send my searcher, whoever's searching in SEO or AEO, this page, that they're going to be happy with the result, right? Always remember their job, the search engines and the answer engines, their job is to provide the best result for their people, right? And if they don't, those people are going to go use another platform. That's not what they want. So they're going to provide the best result. And if you're not giving them the best result, they're not going to rank you. Okay. The oth- Whitney, were you about to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I know we talk to our clients a lot about the expense of photography.
Yes.
And if you are spending a big chunk of your marketing dollars on beautiful images, which we feel like is worth it,
Hmm.
you need to make sure that you're naming them or whoever's working on your site is naming those images so that you are actually getting your bang for the buck that you're spending. Because it's one thing to have those beautiful images, but if no one can find them, what does it matter? I'm not saying that's the only way they would find your website, but I'm saying it is a very easy way for somebody that is going in and looking for a high scale interior designer in San Francisco, and your work is actually high scale interior design in San Francisco, to find a beautiful picture of one of your kitchens or one of your living areas for their family and be like, oh, yes, this is perfect. And then they get into your site and then they start reading your blogs and building that trust. And so just know that, like, if you're spending that type of money on pictures, make it worth it.
Yep. And beyond that too, once the pictures actually come to you, they're complete and ready to add on the site. They've got to be sized, right?
Hmm.
Because yes, if they're so beautiful, amazing, but if they never load,
Yeah.
right? Then
There's
they
nothing
get
worse than going to a site and sitting there and being like, what am I supposed to be seeing? Because it takes so long to load and then you move on to something else.
exactly. So alongside making sure that your file names are updated and your alt tags are added, size them down. We cannot be having images that are megabytes each,
Yeah.
right, on a page.
And that's
Um,
typically how they come through when we get them from our
Always.
clients. You know, they're
Yeah.
1 to 3 megabytes per picture. And then
Yep.
you're putting on a, especially on a portfolio page,
Where
40 or
it's all
50 of
pictures.
those for a whole home. You're done. Like, no one's going to see those images because they're never going to load.
Yep. And then it becomes the kind of trickle effect then that Google goes, this is a slow loading page. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to rank it. I'm not going to
Yeah.
refer this company because they're not optimizing for the best user experience here, right? Okay, this one is a kind of topic that people go, I'm sorry, what is schema, right? And as technical as it is extremely important. So this is something that you want to involve your web developer on because it is in the code, okay? And so what this does is it tells, again, in the code, search and answer engines what exactly you are, right? Who you are in a particular format, okay? So again, it just helps you even more, especially locally, because if you're using the what's called local business schema, this is on purpose not have a space here. There's lots of different types of schema. There's organization, there's lots of stuff, right? But for this particular niche, local business would be the one until someday maybe they have a kitchen remodel or one, whatever it may be. So all of this comes into the code on the page, right? If it's an FAQ page, especially, there is what's called FAQ schema, and it has all of the questions and answers in a particular format that AE goes, okay, yes, I saw the FAQs on the page because I can crawl it, but now I really see it because this is the format that I can really ingest them. Okay. AEO loves that. Recently, like less than a month ago-ish, I want to say, Google said, we don't really care about FAQ schema anymore, right? Where in the past it was very important. Does that mean you stop using it? Absolutely not because of this. Okay. Now, if one day AEO says we're not going to use it anymore either, things need to change, right? That could happen. Who knows? But because it's still important to one of the two large ways that people are potentially finding you online, it still needs to be done,
Hmm.
right? There's review schema. There's all types of schemas. These are the biggies, right? At a minimum, you should have these three. Okay. When you're building a new website, you should also make sure that you have this as your foundation, right? If you don't have this as your foundation on an existing website, I would say do an update, right? Get at least this minimum foundation. Individual service pages, if you don't have them in your initial build because of cost, that's totally understandable. Add them soon after, right? You can add new pages, a new kitchen page, a new bathroom page, a new interiors page, whatever it may be. And that helps SEO and AEO just further specify, get that specificity for what you offer and also cite you. Okay. Location pages, same thing. If it doesn't make sense to add them during the initial build, add them ongoing. If you service a large region and there are specific cities around you that you'd like to target, you can create a location page that is kitchen design in San Francisco, kitchen design in Oakland, kitchen design in wherever, right? And those pages, as I'm saying, are very, very specific. Their
Hmm.
goal is to bring somebody in who is searching for exactly that service in exactly that city, right? Whether they're in a search engine or in AEO. Okay. You obviously want an about page. We all know why you need that. People need to learn who you are, your story, if you've got a team, all of those wonderful things. If they're searching and doing research on you specifically, even, which is possible, right? They can go and be saying, okay, compare this designer versus this designer for me in a chat GPT or whatever platform. It's going to go look for your about page. And if you don't have one, it might make up some information. So make sure your information is out there. A process page is also great if you don't have a dedicated page, including it on your home or services page so that people can actually see and understand what you're going to be doing when you're working with them. This builds a ton of trust, right? And it also gives them like the good gut feeling that is going to make them say they're going to take care of me for this part of the process or the whole thing, depending on what you offer. Okay.
I mean, I think pretty much across the board, people want to know that someone has a plan. So showing them
Yeah.
that you have a plan, even though things can change and things pop up, we know that's the nature of this business, but at least having a general idea of like, this is what should happen next. Here's the milestones. Like people want to know that there's, some sort of agenda.
Yes, especially with the nature of the services that you guys offer, right? You're in their home, you're in there likely for a long time, right? And so they want to make sure that they're making the right decision by somebody who's going to keep things moving along. How do you build authority once you have your foundation, right? Again, those blogs or educational articles, there's a couple ideas on the screen here. What are they actually doing for you on the platforms? They're building authority for you, right? An AI structured article or an AI optimized structured article is going to have clear answers and questions. It's going to have bullets. It's going to have things that it can extract, right? Extractable content, I'll put it that way for AEO. So, does that mean that you should just have a giant blog post of bullets? Absolutely not, right? Still make it readable so that a human actually, when they click into it, they actually still want to read it. But we want to make it easy for the platforms to pull something out of it and go, this is going to help so and so. Click on this and go read more. It's going to interest them, right? But if we're just giving them big, huge blocks of text, you're not making that extractable for the platforms. Okay. FAQ page. If you don't have them, add them, right? What do you add for your FAQs? You add what people are asking you, right? What are the common questions you get all the time? Add them to your website. If you don't have an FAQ page, you can include FAQs on service pages, any of those local landing pages, about page, any of those. Again, make sure that FAQ schema is on the page for AEO. And this should be very easy to use, meaning if somebody gets on your FAQs area, they should be able to sift through, scroll through, because you probably should have about 10 to 15 of them so that you can answer questions up front and make sure that um, people are coming to you already knowledgeable, right? So it's important to include those across the website, but also think about using those for potential blog post topics too, or even social media topics. Okay. Individual project pages. What does that mean? That you have a portfolio page and then somebody clicks on a project to see more and it opens up and you've got the full project, but you've also got a story there. You've got the opportunity to put a title, SEO and AEO optimized. You've got location, you've got a description, again with potential keywords in there if it makes sense for that project to help somebody find it, right? So if somebody's looking and they want to see a modern kitchen remodel in San Francisco, whatever, right? They can potentially come up in SEO and AEO, and someone goes, oh, wow, this person did that type of project near me. Let me poke around a bit more, right? So we're trying to pull them in all these different ways for them to find you, but we need to optimize first in order for that to happen. Those are those ways to build authority. So, where are you feeling that you need improvement? Is it the clarity on your website? Is it your Google business profile, your footprint, your consistency, or your positioning specificity? I want you to rate each one of these 1 out of 5. You do not have to only have one number one and one number two. You can have them all as threes if you want, but you do want to make sure that you know where you should start. So if you do have them all as threes, start at the top with website clarity. Okay. If you have website clarity higher on the list, but you don't have a Google business profile, that's a 0. I don't even have it. Start there. Okay.
Hmm.
So this is a good way to get you a good first step so that you're not looking at this going, oh my gosh, I have so much work to do. Start with one thing on this list and then move to the next highest number. So how are you going to make this actually attainable here, right? Right now, my online visibility isn't fully supporting my business because of what? And the first thing I need to improve is what? And what can you do in the next 30 days? Again, we always say we don't want this to be overwhelming. We want it to be attainable, so at least you can take those baby steps. If it's a baby step, if it's a leap, you can take a leap if you're ready for that. But we also don't want to say, do this today, right? That's not realistic. What can you do in the next 30 days? And we're going to give you an example here of something that would tie into this. So right now, my online visibility isn't fully supporting my growth because my website uses language that describes my work aesthetically, but doesn't reflect how my clients actually search, right? So they're not actually finding you. So what do you actually need to do to solve that? The first area I need to align is website clarity so that homeowners searching for a whole home renovation designer in my area immediately recognize I'm the right fit, right? This is not to say that you need to remove the wording about the aesthetics of your work. It's saying that you need to add for clarity. Okay, because once they actually find you and land on your website and start reading, then you can kind of bring them in more. Again, if that aesthetic wording aligns with your ideal client, then they go, ah, I am in the right place. I see that I'm looking for, a whole home renovation designer. They're in the same city as me, or at least nearby, and they're speaking my language, kind of thing when it comes to the projects. So write this for yourself and give yourself a next step. Now, remember, when you come and let's say you get all this done by the end of or the beginning of July, I'll say, because it's June 10th today, and you say, okay, now what? Come back. Come back to this list. Write a new gap statement. And this keeps you going. Okay. Here's a few tips. I want to make sure that you are very specific in what you are writing in your gap statement. Don't just say, I need to post more. Don't just say, I need to update my website. Those are massive things. The more specific you are, the more likely you are to actually get it done. And make sure that you're not trying to do everything at once. Get some good momentum for yourself. It feels really good to be able to cross something off a list. So don't make that thing so big that you just keep staring at it every day and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get that thing done. Make it attainable. Okay. And don't separate SEO and content. They're the same work approach with the same intention. Clarity, 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 and consistency. Those are our words of the day today. Okay. So make sure that you ask yourself when you're working on all of this stuff here, if someone who is ready to hire someone like you, would they find you? And when they actually get there, would they say, ah, they're the right fit for me? And if it's a no and no, you have some work to do, right?
Yeah.
If it's a yes and no, that gives you a little bit more clarity too, right? To say, hey, I need to update this thing or add this language, be more clear about who I'm serving and where I'm at. Okay. So make sure that you think through all of this and know that a 1 or a 0 on your list is not a failure. It's a here's my next step in my business. There's nothing wrong with this, right? It's just a how do we grow and get to the next step. Don't do this. Be very intentional in what you're going to work on. Don't make things complex. That's how things don't get done. And make sure that you too remember SEO and AEO are the reward for the same thing, right? They're different areas, but they're rewarding the same thing, that clarity and consistency. Okay. We were here today to help you find the gaps. Hopefully we found at least one so that you can grow your business. If you want some additional clarity, we do offer an alignment assessment that walks you through a lot of what we talked about today and more. And it brings you out at the end and says, hey, Here's where we're seeing that you could have some improvements, and then it will invite you to have a call with me at the end to go through that. So you can say, is this really like my right next step, depending on where I am in my business? And then we go from there. Okay. So, Whitney, any final thoughts from today before we close out?
No, I mean, I just think kind of to reiterate what Ashley was just saying, like we weren't here to make anyone feel like everything's falling apart. It's more of just kind of bringing a light to like an area that is a tangible, easy fix and start there. Because I mean, every business has its gaps and every business has to evolve. And so just kind of taking a minute to pause and after this discussion and reflect on like what is the easiest, quickest win and just go from there. Because that's the way that all of us are going to grow is by focusing on something that we can actually make a difference in. So just look at your list and what is it that you actually have the bandwidth for right now that is an area that's falling behind and do that. And then maybe then you have more bandwidth because you don't feel like you're treading water, you know. So I think that would be my biggest thing is just like none of this is made to make people feel like, "Oh, I'm so behind. I don't have any of this." Like you do have stuff in place. So where do you start to either band-aid or correct or move those pieces that are already in place forward? Or, like Ashley said, if there's one that's completely missing and you just need to set up the LinkedIn profile or you just need to set up the Google Business profile, those things are easy things that then allow for you to be searched. So, just kind of think of it like that of something that you can bite off and actually chew and move forward.
Awesome. Great, great recap. Thank you so much, Whitney. And thank you everyone for watching today. We will see you all very soon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.